The following episode may contain spoilers for the game Frosthaven. Welcome to episode 14 of our board game podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie, and joining me always, a man who recently made a mind-blowing, for him, game-changing discovery, where if he punches himself in the face, he can create fire. Brain explode meme. Gaz! Say hi, guys.
Hi guys, and I will be talking more about the marvelous creation that is fire and how it changed the world.
So excited about.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing and incredible, and it has changed my game.
Yeah, because we covered that towards the end of last episode when you leveled up and got to pick your card and how you're excited you were, and you got to do it. I must say it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, it was nothing happened for a bit, and then heaps of stuff happened, and I just felt like I was this unstoppable juggernaut of fire.
I thought you were trying out the Bone Shaper because you were punching yourself for 2 damage every time.
Yeah, well, I changed away from punching other people for damage and muddling and cursing and wounding them and thought I'd try it on myself.
That's fair enough. We are actually recording in person for the first time. We actually had an extra day off and Gaz was coming over because he wanted to hang out, and we thought, why don't we give recording in person a go? Because spoiler alert, we don't actually record in person ever. It's always been online, and it probably sounds a little bit like that as well.
Don't break the fourth wall.
So we're actually sitting opposite each other in the same room, which means he can give me the look if I'm straying too far and going in a weird direction.
Yeah, well, I'm giving him that look right now.
Yeah,
but he's not looking at me, so it doesn't work.
No. Well, eye contact is sometimes really weird. So I look at him every now and then. He's just staring at me. It's just a little bit creepy.
But it does feel really cool being here. Like, we're on the table that we play Frosthaven on. All the stuff is here. It kind of feels like Frosthaven Day, but we're recording, which is it's really cool, because one of the problems is, and again, to kind of further break down that fourth wall, so we usually play on like Monday nights and we don't record until Friday. So that's why, I always remember the road events specifically to every level of detail. But the other part is that sometimes the energy's kind of gone a little bit. It's kind of cool, but it's really the only way it works. So yeah, just kind of being in the room here and recording, it's kind of like, oh, it's Frosthaven Day again.
It's a different vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really cool to be able to record all in one go.
Yeah, I think that could be something we could definitely work towards doing. I'm just thinking out loud right now.
Yeah. I don't think anyone needs to know about this, but
no. So before we jump into everything today, I just want to quickly have a quick chat about some other games that I actually had played this week. On Thursday night, actually, we were planning on jumping online to play some tabletop simulator games with Bizarre Group. And no one really showed up, except for Phil. So Phil and I were sitting in our Discord, and he was saying, hey, can you teach me Innovation? So we jumped on BGA, and I taught him how to play Innovation. So Innovation by Carl Chuddick and Asmadi Games. Great little, plays up to 4 people, but it's a card game that had multi-use cards, something that Carl's really, really famous for with Glory to Rome and the other one, Motanai, one of them anyway. So Innovation is one of the original ones, and I actually got to jump online and show it to him, and I actually recently showed you that game as well. And you've now shown 2 other people that game.
Yeah, it's like a virus.
Yeah,
I played one game of it and then was chatting with a couple of my mates I used to play games with. I was like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this really cool game I played once and it's amazing. And one of them bought it off Amazon literally then, and he lives in America, so basically it arrived then, right? Because that's how Amazon works in the US. And from being in Australia, so all the people who listen in the US and goes, that's not how it works. We're like, from Australia, where everything takes a really long time. My vision of Amazon over there is literally it arrives once you click the button. And yeah, one of my other mates, and they both got it and have yet to play it yet. But I did a little test game on BGG as well. BGA.
Board Game Arena,
Yeah, that one. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Phil got to it really quickly. in the times that I play with Gaz, this is like Gaz's perfect game. It's a very Geminate card game, and there's so many different things you can do with so many different cards. And that's what makes the game so special, is that every card has multiple ways that it can be used, from symbology, from the actions to everything, that his little brain, works wonders with these things. And I'm sitting there trying to rub two sticks together and work out what that leads to.
Appreciate the little slap there on the way through with the little brain. But I think the interesting thing about all of that is that while I do really think the game is cool, both times I've beaten you have basically been with like level 1 and 2 techs and just cycling. I've just made this super efficient, very low tech engine. And I think in the last game it was like, oh yeah, you've got atomic theory. Well, I've got pottery.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
It still won.
Yeah, definitely. And the game I played with Phil, and we played 2 games, one after the other. So the second one, he actually got a bit more used to the idea of it. It was a bit more of a stalemate because the first one was a bit of a stomp. And the second one, it was really interesting because there was one bit where we both were building up so much that we weren't scoring anything. And then eventually the scoring started coming at rapid fire. And my score just went nuts because I just had some little engine going that suddenly swapped my scorecards with the top value card in my hand. I had like 5-7 cards in my hand, or 6-7 cards. They all got put into my score pile at the same time, and it just skyrocketed up the top. And then Phil played some card that actually said, choose a card number, and all players removed that number from their score pile. So we both got reset down to like 8 points and 6 points. And the next tier achievement was like the 7 or the 8. And it was kind of like weird building all the way back up to that. It was really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
Really sad. So I got to play that with Phil. It was really, really cool to be able to play a bit of that again. I also today caught up with my in-laws, my partner's parents, who are from Hong Kong. They live here, but they're Chinese, and I brought over Steam Up. Steam Up's a new game that actually was a Kickstarter that got fulfilled recently. It's kind of like dim sum, right? Yumcha. And it's got these cute little dumpling like pieces, and all the pieces like chicken feet and all that kind of stuff, and in the Steam trays that you actually get. It's a very cute game. It's very simple to the point where I could teach them, because they're not big time gamers, but I have taught them Azul, and they play that. They play Lost Cities, and they play, I can't remember, there was something else. They've got a little pile themselves, like Jaipur and all that. So the 4 of us had a bit of a game with that, and I actually found that really, really cute, very adorable, and I've left it at their place so that they can play that together. It's really, really cool. So look, I'm a big time deluxeified person, so if a game comes and it comes with all the extra cute things, I need to have all of that. I highly recommend the game from a aesthetic point of view. It's a really simple family game, but you kind of have to have the cute little dumpling pieces, because the cardboard chits just don't cut it. And it's kind of like the whole miniature thing as well, actually.
I remember that from back in the day when Agricola, we were playing that, and
It had cubes.
Yeah, it had cubes. And I remember my mate who owned it, and this is way back in the day, right? This is before Kickstarter was really a big thing. So you couldn't just be like, oh, I'll back all the super deluxe ultra editions, everything. He actually bought, this is when in Australia, bought from America, and it took like weeks to get here. Replacement pieces for that game that were little cows, little pigs, and everything like that.
Meatballs.
Yeah, and we were just like mind blown. Can't go back to cubes. This is incredible. Like, and now that's like standard issue, right? Like, if you bought a game, unless it was specifically trying to be a like that kind of Euro, like, nah, you get cubes. That's all you get, right?
If it was
like,
War of the Cubes,
yeah,
or something like that, understandable. Anything else? No.
Yeah, it's got to be like, yeah, carved pieces in the shape of what they are. So yeah, it's just interesting how far it's come in that space. Like, and that's all those add-ons. So yeah, definitely.
It's DLC, and necessary DLC. It's a way to make you spend a little bit more. Something else that's coming up next week, believe it or not, we have a public holiday next week.
Yeah, just for something completely different, public holiday.
So we have a day called Anzac Day. Yep, sounds made up.
It's about the cookies.
Yes, it's about Anzac cookies. So, yep, and in Australia, I think it's the same all around Australia. It's the same day.
Yeah, it's a national public holiday.
So it's a Tuesday. So we're probably going to end up playing on that day. So it may be a double session, may not. Who knows? I think there's a football game on that day, so we may not see Gaz for a big portion of it because his team is playing. But I just thought it would be funny to just say, by the way, we've also got another public holiday. We're getting one on per episode, essentially, at the moment.
Oh, okay. I thought this was just educating people about Anzac Day.
No,
which is an
I don't.
amazing day, by the way. So no disrespect for what it is, because it's about our veterans and a lot of that stuff. So it is really important. But yeah, it's a massive day, and yeah, I mean, I think this is the last one. This Anzac Day is usually the end of our public holiday run for the first quarter of the year, because we end up with about, I don't know, half a dozen, and then we have to have this break until our fake Queen's birthday public holiday.
Is it King's birthday now?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the Queen's actual birthday anyway.
No,
So
I'm pretty sure it's King's birthday.
Okay,
now.
King's birthday is the same day.
No idea.
Okay,
Maybe.
Cool. Well, he was born on the same day. They all were. Yeah. And then the next one's a horse race in November. So yeah, we do it in style here.
One last thing, just in our little segment of news and all that kind of stuff. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here because I want to get this out early, just to get some ideas going. Towards the end of our session that we're about to communicate with now, in our outpost phase, we built a few things. And one of them was a boat. We have actually now built a boat. So it was climbing gear and, you know, the sleds and all that kind of stuff. We've actually built a boat. We can't come up with, or we can't agree on a name for this boat. So we were talking about it. It was like, well, what are we going to call this boat? We've got the sticker. The sticker's on our map. And it actually, in the rules, specifically says you need to name the boat and need to write it on the cards. So I'm reaching out to our listeners. If you could just get in contact with us via mail or DM or something, chuck us a few ideas and we'll make the boat one of the selections. And going forward, whenever we do an event with the boat, we'll call out that boat.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And in typical boat fashion, if we don't name it, it'll be bad luck, and the boat event deck will just constantly give us bad events. So please name it. The only name that's banned is Boaty McBoatface, because we all came up with that and we decided no. So you can't name it that, even though that probably will be the default if we get no responses. But yes, if you're the only person that responds, you get to name our boat.
Yeah. What if it's a profanity boat?
Then we call it Profanity Boat.
Okay.
It just means every time we read out the name of the boat, we have to beep it out. Okay. So also, I mean, yes, would be funny, but maybe if you're going to do that, give us that one and then a not profanity one. All right, we'll just have to somehow water it down.
Yeah.
I mean, although we are Australian, so I mean, yeah, our threshold for what profanity is actually quite.
It's very different.
Yeah, it's very different. So
similar to the UK. I think they would get it.
Yeah, no, I think they do. So
yeah. All right. So this week on amDirt, we actually do scenario 115. That's 115. After 114, which we've already done, it's the next one along in Pinter's spectacular chronicle of blowing things up or having things blown up.
Yeah, industrialization or colonization or colonialism or something like that, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, screw everyone else, we're building a road.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what they're building a road. They want us to protect the road that's being built. So after going up and getting the explosives and making a path and blowing a whole bunch of things up, now the workers have gone out there to build all the structures and the pylons, but they're worried that other people may come and blow that up. So they've set us to go and protect the pillars.
Yeah. With the bombs, I believe we went into the cave and the wolf bears and the frost imps were having a jamboree, which we then blew up. And now they've gone and built pillars, and the local Algocs have been like, wait, hang on, this is our land. You can't just build pillars here. And we've been like, sorry, we've been hired to get rid of you.
Yeah, well, they're not bad pillars or anything like that.
Yeah.
If anything, aesthetically, it actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, because most people do like highways built through their property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
They're worried about the real estate market.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you go watch The Castle, right?
I can't remember that movie. It's the pool room one.
Yeah, the pool room one. Yeah, reference. Everyone Australian will get that one. Everyone who's not Australian will have absolutely no idea what I'd do. But regardless of who you are, go watch it. It's a good watch. And we were basically the government.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
all right. So on our way to doing this particular scenario, we had a road event.
yes, we did have a road event.
You sound like you remember this one.
Every road event, I 100% remember all the details for.
How much gold did we lose?
Imagine that I was someone who didn't remember this road event. Can you give me a clue?
No, you give it to me. Just to make sure we're on the same page.
A clue.
Yeah. Do you remember the road event or not?
I mean, that's a very broad term.
Okay, you don't
remember.
Okay, again,
Like-
that's fine. That's fine.
There's stages of remembering.
Okay, if I say Iron Man,
No, that still doesn't ring a bell.
okay, there was no exchanging of anything. It was just, hey, there's a thing there. That looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Do
Okay, yep. We did the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So as a result, we got another sticker to go next to our other sticker that we got a few scenarios ago.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. We have no idea what either of them are going to do, and for all we know, like Phil even made the comment, one of these has got to be bad.
Oh, 100%. Like everything's always bad. It's just delayed bad.
Yeah.
I think they're like, hey, cool, you took the thing, put the sticker on there, and you think that it's really cool, but later on someone's gonna be like, hey, that's my sticker. Give me back my sticker.
And roll initiative.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we ended up at after doing this, we ended up at our pillar highway area, and we were basically, hey, stop those guys, tear down those pillars, and we were like, oh no, we're under attack. Roll initiative, everyone, jump in the corner. So I started to set up the map, and the map this time was weird because it was fully revealed from turn one. We had 3 tiles that were intertwined together with some really cool things that were connecting them to make it appear a little bit more like larger. And we had the 7, I think it was 7, right? 7 pillars?
Yep.
With 7 pillars that were spread out across and a bunch of enemies just laid out in conveniently spread out areas next to said pillars. And we only had 3 of us this time. So Calvin, our Bone Shaper, was not with us for this particular scenario, which I did comment. I was like, when we were setting it up and looking at it, I was like, this would actually be a pretty decent one for him. Because it wasn't like get to the end of anything. It was just stay in one spot, right?
Yeah, spread out tower defense, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So we were setting it up, and our old mate Algox Brutes came out. Or the guards, sorry. Algox guards. We set up a new standee, which was pretty cool. And that was the Algox Wind Speaker. And then lo and behold, for the 6th consecutive week, I reckon, we had snow imps.
Yeah, I think that, you know how movies and games and media have subtitles underneath the main title, like when it's, you know, Too Fast, Too Furious, and it's like the Rock Edition or something like that. I feel like Frosthaven needs to have a little bit of Snow Imp Edition underneath the name Frosthaven, because I feel like these are going to be in every single scenario for the rest of our lives. Like, can they ever not be?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm thinking it's a joke now. I'm thinking like the game is changing and it's downloading updates as we're going, and it's just going, oh, we're going to mess with these guys.
Yeah.
And every scenario now, because this Frosthaven Scenario Viewer is an app, like, so it probably is updating that and it's replacing the skeletons or whatever with that. Either way, I cannot believe that we are still doing this. And yeah, look, here we go.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we can do is we can get on our boat and we can get the hell out of Frosthaven and go to somewhere where they've never heard of snow imps, right?
Snow Imp Land.
No, yeah, like let's not, like this is snow imp land, unless we, you know, turn the corner and find some deserted island, get on there, and it's just like an island full of snow imps. So yeah, I definitely am going to be an ambassador for leaving.
Yeah. So our scenario goal, after all of this set up and we're chilling in the corner and we can all see everything, is the scenario is complete at the end of the 10th round. And then there are ice pillar rules. So all the ice pillars, all 7 of them have, it worked out to be 6 health. Okay. And when the ice pillars, they're enemies to us and the monsters, and which means we can't heal them or fix them or anything like that.
But we could damage them if we did AoE attacks.
Yes. So we could also time was that. But then there's also the caveat of the rules are if they lose all their health, they crumble and they do a big AoE on the spot and the ones around them, and they take trap damage and they leave rubble behind, which turns out to be difficult terrain. So it gives us a real snapshot of kind of what we're kind of looking into at the moment. And then the additional rules are, not only do we have to survive 10 rounds without losing all of the pillars, by round 5, we get some new friends. In the case of, I think it was more guards, Algox guards.
Yep.
And then by the 8th round, we get another influx of snow imps, 2 per side, and more elite wind speakers. And these things have like 20 health. So that was kind of where we kind of saying, cool, it's not only just stay alive for 10 rounds, but we've got all these extra things coming. So we have to clear things by round 5. Otherwise, we're going to get overwhelmed while dealing with these incredibly fragile pillars.
And it was kind of a cool feeling in being a bit different to the other scenarios, at least from the very setup, because, yeah, you're right. We had to look at it and go, oh, well, we need to get out there and get amongst these monsters, and it's almost like a wave or a horde mode, right? Like we knew we've got 5 rounds, we've got to deal with what's on the board, and then we're going to have some more, and we'll deal with that, and then some more and deal with that. So you were looking a turn or two ahead, going like, okay, we've got 2 turns, and you could kind of plan around how much you prepped, how big you went, how much you focused, things like that. So it was a cool little shift in how we kind of approach the scenario.
And we knew that we could also afford to lose some pillars. We knew that was going to be inevitable. We just had to keep, one up in order to win. So if we all stacked on one area or one side of the thing, the only risk would be area damage. But yeah, we didn't have to try and protect all of them, which we learned very quickly was not really going to be feasible anyway.
No, I think we learned that from the very first card that the snow speakers drew. We're like, oh, well, clearly most of the pillars are going to die this turn.
So the round 1, we're all getting ready to prep and deciding, I'll go this way, you'll go that way. And our snow speaker friends drawed a card, which, look, let me just talk a little bit about the snow speakers. They have relatively large attacks. They're all generally ranged. So they do a lot of range stuff. They have a lot of push. So they're pushing stuff around with a lot of their ranged attacks. There's one in particular that we saw towards the tail end, which was a big area of attack muddle, which was a little bit annoying. They also had one that came up way later, which would have been horrendous earlier, which was the massive ranged entangle that they did right at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would have absolutely wrecked us at the start.
Which we didn't see until the end, and then we realized. And then there was the card that they actually played round 1, which I think was just that whole luck thing, because it was so unfortunate. But it was literally, it went at initiative 6, all enemies within range 3 take 2 damage, get pushed 2, and then they create ice and wind, which is not going to be good for whatever comes a little bit later. But right from the get-go with the positioning of where they were, they just did so much damage to multiple pillars.
Yeah, well, both that were on the board hit 3 pillars each. So it was like, oh, okay.
Before we got to do anything.
Before we even had a turn at initiative 6.
Yeah.
And what's kind of worse was that me and Deddy had both planned to jump in near some of them to just draw the fire. We're like, okay, we'll jump next to this pillar. You go next to that one. We'll take the attacks from this and the guards, and we'll kind of save some of these pillars. And we're like, oh, no, wait. No, these 3 pillars are on 2 life. They're like, oh, okay. That changes all of our plans, I guess.
Yeah. No, it was terrible. So in around the same time, I did move. I went out there and I think I did a walk and a strap-on crushing weight kind of thing. And we're trying to work out what the guards are going to do. And the imps at the same time were also doing a ranged attack because sometimes they do a shield and a heal or a muddle strengthen. Like I pretty much know their whole deck by now. And they decided to do a fairly hard-hitting ranged attack. And the guards were also doing a just walk and smash. So first round we were going to lose 3 pillars, like pretty much guaranteed. And we were getting into position and I was not attacking because I was sticking crushing weight on. I had to do at least one of my prep cards. Phil was setting up and Gaz was going in and doing something similar. And I remember distinctively that we wanted the guards to walk up and hit the pillars because it was going to do damage to the guards and the wind speakers. And the imps went before the guards. So the imps actually fired off shots at the pillars and they pulled like a -1 or a -2 and the other one missed. And it was like perfect because it was like, oh, thank goodness they missed so that the guards can hit them and then everyone takes damage. And that works out really, really well. Early on when that happened, I suffered, I called it. There was a bit where we were working out, taking damage and getting to right positions and dealing damage and trying to obviously take the damage instead of the pillars taking the damage. There was one moment where I walked in and they all they had their turn activated. They went to hit me. And before they hit me, they went to hit a pillar and they missed. And I looked into their deck and I've said, they've pulled nothing but red cards. And now they've missed. but they're still going, which means the next one's going to be a crit. And then I revealed their next card, and it was a crit straight to me. And I called it. And right from the get-go, I'm taking more damage than I'm meant to be taking already in my plan.
Yeah. And no, there was the attacks on the pillars were substantially low and the attacks on us were substantially high. I think that was a theme that kind of carried on through. So, and we did rejig our first turn where we were going to go right in, but then we decided to kind of go sideways a bit and let them just kind of neck themselves on the pillars and then jump in after that. And I think after that first turn is when we identified, okay, these are probably the 2 pillars that I reckon we can save, because we also needed to take in consideration the spawn points.
Yes.
So, how quickly are we going to be able to kill these and intercept? So, yeah, it was an interesting, again, after that first turn, it was interesting to kind of reevaluate and go, those pillars are done for. Except for, when we'll talk about this a little bit later, a magical number, pillar number 7, I think it was.
Yeah.
That must have been like a long distant cousin to the bookshelf we ran into last week, because
100%.
It was just an immovable pillar.
From its positioning, it copped the initial 2 damage plus 2 damage.
Yeah.
And then I think there was, I don't know, it was right next to a wind speaker or whatever. Yeah, you're right.
It just kept getting shot by everything and whacked and missing and minuses. And it just sat there just being like, nope, you know what?
We should have had a go.
We should have gone in to have a go. Yeah, it was Hodor and it definitely stayed up.
So once we got our bearings and we started to doing a bit of damage to the snow imps and the brutes, and I mean, the fact that they were taking trap damage, at this level, trap damage was 5. So that was doing a fair chunk when the pillars were going down, trying to maximize the amount of creatures that were around it. We'd actually cleared a lot of what was there. We cleared everything by turn 4.
Yeah. Well, I remember thinking that because we had a whole turn of nothing, right?
Yeah. Round 4 was when we cleared it. And then we were setting up for the spawn points and working out. I was going on the right-hand side, on my side, right-hand side, and you were on the far side, and Phil was kind of floating around the middle. And we were kind of spreading out and getting ready for these spawns. But that felt like a bit of a luxury, because I even mentioned by round 4, yeah, we had cleared the board completely. And I think there was one bit after that, yeah, we did spawn the remaining round 5 mobs to reinforce it. And then it was kind of like more of the same. Prevent them from hitting the pillars, take the hits ourselves, do damage. Phil was calling out, I'm going to do my Bane ability here, and I'm going to curse this one. And whenever Phil tries to curse something, he always crits it and then doesn't get to curse it. And then we have to explain to him why he doesn't get to curse it every time.
Yep. So, and I think the other thing that the snow speakers have, because it came up a few times in this, is retaliate, like range retaliate, right?
They've got one built into them, yes.
Yeah. So, and because Phil has this innate ability in his character class, I'm not sure actually. We'll wait and see when he rolls a new character to see if it's a class-based thing or it's a Phil-based thing. He'll always do the exact amount of damage needed to kill something that has retaliate. But he never knows it has retaliate.
No.
So he'll be sitting on 1 HP, attacking something on 6 life with an attack 4, not realizing that he's going to kill himself if he doesn't do 6 damage. But then he'll always draw his +2 or his crit.
100%. Every time.
And it's ridiculous. And he like goes to draw and you're like, you realize this has retaliate. He's like, oh, does it? Oh, it's dead. It's like, okay. And then these with retaliate range 3, right? So this he's thinking, this is easy because I'm ranged. I don't have to worry about retaliate. No. They've got, I think it was like range 5.
It was something ridiculous.
Their
range was like 5 or something.
Yeah, because I remember I've got a range 5/6 attack, I think it is, or it might be 4/5. But I remember being at range 5 and going like, oh yeah, do that, and you're like, and you take 3 damage. I'm like, what? I'm like 5 away, as if it's retaliating. But I don't have the innate ability to kill everything and never take retaliate damage. So I had to take the retaliate damage.
Well, I don't think Phil has actually to this day discarded the card because of retaliate damage.
No, I don't think he's ever taken retaliate damage.
He's definitely hit a lot of creatures with retaliate.
Yeah, he definitely. So I reckon that there's probably a little creature podcast going on, and they're talking about the Death Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Death Walker, and how OP it is, and that retaliate never counts.
Ignore retaliate.
Yeah. So, so that was, he was definitely jumping around doing those things.
So by round 6, when we had definitely been fighting, in cleanup mode and dealing some damage and taking some damage and all that kind of stuff, I asked Phil for a bit of an update on damage meters. I wanted to just get an idea of what things were looking like mid-game, whether or not some of us spike later or go hard early or something like that. And we got a report back that Phil had done about 30 damage. I had done 30 and Gaz had done 18. So I just thought that was a nice little update to have in there as something to think about when we were playing. And then by this stage, I think we may have been down to about 4 pillars. I had one on my side that I was protecting. We had number 7. Yep. Number 7 in the middle of the map.
Yep.
Then we had 2 on your side.
Yep.
And I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you and Phil were both making comments like, this is so easy. I can't believe we're going to win this. I can't believe, like, I've never felt so confident. And I'm like, whoa. Let's, like, this game has the ability just to absolutely turn the tables. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and you know.
I would never say anything that cocky.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you didn't. I had to pull you back up on it, but yeah.
Yeah, so it was fairly easy.
Yeah, well, I think look, one of the things, without going blow through the rest of it, like I think one of the things, and there'll be a couple of moments, but when you do scenarios that are time-based, one of the dangers is that if you are ahead or you can plot it out, it can very much just become procedural. So we kind of knew going into turn 9, right, like where we had 2 turns left, that we couldn't lose because we either had pillars far enough away or we were in between pillars, you know, and then especially once the cards are drawn on turn 10, we're like, oh, well, we've still got like 4 pillars up. We can't lose this, right? Like it just can't happen. And that can be the only downside to something like this because you can see it all out there. It's one of the real big advantages that Frosthaven and Gloomhaven mechanics have is because the creatures are always pulling a new ability every turn, plus the modifier decks, you can't math it out. Like you can't see everything on there. So it was interesting because we weren't the aggressors, where normally you can't call it and say, oh, well, there's 1 monster left or there's 3 monsters left, so we just got to kill them, we win. We've got this in the bag.
Yes.
You can miss, you can draw -2s, they can pull shield cards. There's a whole bunch of things that can happen. But we were actually able to see on the board and go, oh, well, we can't lose.
Well, throughout the actual scenario, there were so many times where we could lose or we could make it harder. It was going to get so much harder. And they kept missing. They actually kept missing the pillars. The misses were always coming up for the pillars, not for us. So we were copying the damage. But there were, I swear, if I could go back and listen to the audio, there were a good probably 4 or 5 misses that they did on the pillars, from the snow imps to the big boys to everything.
Yeah.
That made me go, oh, wow, we still had this one all the way over here. Yes, we still had number 7, which survived everything. But mine didn't even die, you know, and there was something next to mine.
Yeah.
When I left it to go do something else. And it was just they weren't killing them.
Yeah.
We got so lucky.
We did get really lucky. So it's not so much that it's just an easy scenario because I don't think it is. And depending on your makeup, your classes and how it all goes can change that. But I think very early we got the advantage. We had the momentum. We had the advantage. We kind of had it under control. And then from then it was just kind of maintaining that control. So that was fun because we got to use a bunch of cards. Like I said, you know, got to use a bunch of burn cards because those last 3 turns, I was like, oh, well, we've pretty much got this now. So I'm just going to just double burn and get heaps of XP. So yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah. So ultimately, like, it's really hard to talk about the rest of the scenario because there was one bit where one of the elites was out. And I mean, the snow imps came out and we just kind of killed them really quickly. You AoE'd 2 of them down in 2 seconds. And
yeah, I had my battle goal was kill 5 enemies. Yeah. And so when I was looking going, oh, I need to kill some of these. And then I saw that we were going to get 2 snow imps at each location. And I'm like, just looking at my cards going, oh, they only have 3 life because they're normal. I can AoE and do 4 damage. Yes, okay. I'm going to set this up. So I actually did it 2 turns in advance because I knew what was going to happen and I knew where they were going to spawn.
True.
So I had my card. I'm like, okay, I need to move here because in the next turn I'm going to AoE that square and do it. And so I kind of planned it to get those. So we had, again, we were able to plan ahead of what was going on.
Yeah. You killed those 2. I went over, I killed another one. Phil was like, do you need help with that? No, here's something else. But there was one elite that we all were like, oh, that thing's got 19 health and they do a bit of AoE shenanigans and they have range stuff. So it's kind of like, I just distinctly remember there was a turn when we all spent our turn attacking the elite.
Yep.
And I crit it. So I hit it for 8. Phil hit it for 5 and you hit it for 6.
Yeah.
And it just
died.
Died.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, that's nice to deal with that. And then the rest of it was just kind of, like I said, running around picking up loot.
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
trying to maximize our XP. So ultimately, I think this was not very fair on, I think it's John Holmes. I don't think it was very fair for me to pass judgment and say this was not very good or anything like that, or this was too easy. I acknowledge that this was, we got a little unlucky at the start with the one card that these wind speakers were pulling out. But later on, it went the complete other way, and they just couldn't hit a pillar to save themselves. And that's just on the modified deck. That's just got nothing to do with the design of it or anything like that. That would have been tougher because you throw in 2 extra pillars there, and all of a sudden, buttholes are clenching a little bit. Like, ooh, maybe not.
And that deal 2 damage to everything within like range 3 or 4 or whatever it is was a recycle card.
Yeah.
So there is a chance, like you get it with the oozes, right? Or you get it with some of the mobs that have these really dangerous refresh cards where they actually draw them 2 or 3 times within a few turns. So if they had drawn that even once more, I think it makes a massive difference. I mean, definitely the invulnerable pillar dies because that was just instant damage. But they would move around and push everybody, and it does become a lot trickier.
Yeah.
Like you said, the other cards like the immobilize, like chucking that out turn 2 would have really slowed us down.
So much.
And if we were nowhere near the pillars, that just means that the big Algox skies or the snow imps or whatever it is just go, oh, well, we have free range to wail on these pillars. So yeah, I would go and say compared to the bomb one that we did, which was also by the same designer, this one felt a lot better from a design point because I think the theme of it carried all the way through. Like, here are your mobs, defend the pillars, go. Whereas I think, like we talked about with the bomb one, the bombs became irrelevant really quick. Like, we used them early on, and then it basically became this mad rush to the end, which it wasn't super enjoyable. It was more just like, oh, I hope we don't get really unlucky. This one more felt like, I don't know, you mentioned the modified deck, but I also felt through decent design, like we from our end, like we played the scenario well and we got rewarded by being ahead. And that felt good because I was like, yeah, we have actually, we split up, right? Like we very rarely do that. We actually split up and we kind of divided up the sections into little territory quite well. And we actually managed the threats. So I think that's why it felt for me a bit better. I was like, oh yeah, I can see what this scenario is trying to do. I think it did it quite well. We got lucky in some instances, but we also were allowed to kind of flex and use our cards well to control the room. And it worked. So I quite enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it. I just, I looked into this particular scenario, and whenever something feels a little bit easier, I always want to go, did we do that right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I kind of went and did a bit of searching. It turns out rule-wise and everything's fine, but there are other people on the other side who are like, this scenario is terrible. As in, it's hard. Like, how did you do this? Like, and people are talking about it. And a lot of discussions are a little bit around kind of the RNG, because if we go back to those snow speakers at the start, if they played that two times in a row, that would be 3 or 4 dead pillars.
Yeah.
Followed up with an immobilize at range 6, AoE or something like that, and we're staying put only to have the following pillars munched with +1, green modifier cards to even beef up the little snow imp damage. Like, it could have been over in round 3 or round 4. It would have been. Yeah, it's like all the different possibilities of all those action cards, the action cards from the actual monsters and the modified deck. It's just a lot of facets of RNG kind of tied in together.
Yeah, I think that RNG piece plus the decisions that you make, like we've become attuned to not having prep time, right? Like you're kind of doing half prep, right?
Yeah.
You'll move and crushing weight. I'm pretty much not prepping anymore. I just jump in and do some stuff to almost buy time for everyone else to get them. I think Phil's first turn takes him about 3.2 seconds to plan because he just has to find the 2 cards he plays literally at the start of every scenario. Yeah. So like, but if you had a group that weren't as aware of that, or maybe weren't as like, in a sense of like, well, what do we need to do? And everyone just said, we're just going to take a turn prepping. Yeah, you're right. You could very easily lose a couple of pillars in that first turn and then lose another 2 or 3 the next turn. And then suddenly you'd be like, wow, how are we going to stop the 20 odd mobs that are going to be involved in this scenario are killing 2 pillars, which that bit becomes really tricky. So yeah, I think it could very easily get out of control very quickly. It's again based on the decision to make and the RNG element.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think it was good. I think it was better than the first one. I enjoyed this one a fair bit more. Do you want to clue us in on what changed and why you're suddenly beating yourself in the face and what that means for how good you are now?
Yeah. I just want to play something for you, and as I lead into explaining what's going on.
Yeah! Look what I have created! I have made fire! I have made fire!
Okay.
All right. So that's just a little bit of how I was feeling at the time, and we made jokes about the Geminate has created fire. So I got a card last level, which was the end of the last scenario, which basically means, I can deal 2 damage. It's a persistent ability.
Yeah.
And I can deal 2 damage to myself and create either fire or light. Now, that doesn't sound very good by almost any standard of any card.
That sounds terrible.
Right? Except if you have used fire or light on like half of your cards, right? And the abilities that they give are quite good as well. Now, most of them are on burn cards. So most of my burn cards have like an element you can spend. There's like, it uses 4 different elements, and there's another half of which is frost and the other one, I think. But what I was basically able to do, and I'll just quickly go through what the bonuses I got from these. And I think I was able to do it like 3 turns in a row towards the end of it. So one of them was to eat fire to add 1 attack and get an XP, which is great because it helps me generate XP.
Yeah.
But that's on an AoE 3. So that basically turns it from an AoE 3 to 3 targets, attack 3 to an attack 4, which is quite good, especially considering my deck.
Yeah.
And I've got a card where the bottom of it gives me advantage on my range attacks.
Okay, yeah.
So, while my deck can have some bad cards, also got some quite good cards. And so that buffed that quite a lot. And that's literally just eat fire, do that. So again, that's how I killed the snow imps.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I know I'm going to do it. So I'm going to eat the fire, give myself fire, deal 2 damage, make fire, and just blow them up next turn, right?
Yeah, because you blew them up really confidently.
Yeah, well, I was like, even if I draw my -1s, I know I'm going to kill them because they've got 3 health, right?
It's amazing how much of a difference that
It's amazing not having a -2 in your deck, right? Then because I'd eaten myself a little bit and taken some damage, the next turn, because I did it again, I was just like, I'm totally going to take more damage and get fire. It's a heal, but if I eat fire, I give myself strengthen. Which is great because I've also got cards that make me muddle myself.
Yeah, muddle yourself.
So that balances that out. Or alternatively, it just means that my next attack has strengthen. And the cool thing is because that's a bottom, if I attack that turn, right, then I can actually attack with advantage and then get advantage again the next turn.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And then the last one that I used, because there was 3 that I did, basically if I eat fire, it gives me advantage and wounds them and gives me an XP. And it's on an attack 6. That's the attack that always misses.
Yeah.
Right? So with fire, I can make it so that it shouldn't always miss. I mean, I've probably got enough curses in my deck that I've put there myself to make it or still have a chance of missing. But so that's the little things I'm able to do.
Yeah.
With that, it's really just it's just getting more out of my cards that I'm playing because I've really never been able to consistently hit those elements.
That's true.
Because the only way I could get elements prior to that was I had persistent cards out that would let me turn an element that already existed into fire or light. But that then required either A, the enemies to generate it, which is super inconsistent, or I had to eat a leftover like dark or grass that Calvin or Phil were playing, and they usually would need them.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bit greedy to be like, oh, can I just turn that into fire? So yeah, this is just giving me a chance to set up the next turn and go, you know what? Yeah, I can take 2 damage here because I can really use that fire.
It's interesting to see the Gemini, like, because we've been playing for so long now, kind of, that interesting to see you evolve and the characters evolved so much over time from being a little bit of this and this and this. Ranged attack at the very start, bit of muddling, bit of status effects. Sorry, you guys are also going to cop that as well. Also healing to the tanking era of tanking Geminade, where you've been sitting there tanking and topping yourself up and doing heals and again status effects and all that kind of stuff. Retaliate. into now you're just railgunning everyone as well.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of came at the right time because I think maybe a few weeks ago I talked about having a decent grasp on the bits, and the next kind of challenge I wanted to take on was the elements, because I was trying to figure out how I make the elements work. And I think I had kind of figured out mostly what I did, but again, it was really inconsistent. And then I leveled up. And that's why I was so excited. Like that, I think it was just the right timing for when I opened both those cards. And that's why I was just like really, really pumped for these, and then showed you and you're like, I don't understand what this even means.
No, fire, big whoop.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But I was like, wow, this is like, I talk about, it being a Rubik's Cube or hoops or puzzle, but this was like the missing piece that I needed just to make like kind of all these combos work. So that's basically made a difference. And so it's really cool because I'm really looking forward to using this more and seeing how much else I can kind of pump out of this one card.
So would you say it's breathed life into the Geminate for you?
Yeah, it definitely has. I think I may have mentioned this either on the pod or just to you that I would potentially consider retiring. Like I've got a retirement goal that I can kind of control. Like I could just hint at certain scenarios I would like to go to kill certain monsters, and I could probably retire. And I think a level or so ago I was considering that, but I think now I'm not. Now I'm really keen to see in the next couple of cards because it feels more whole. So yeah, if there's any Geminate players out there that are playing and not seeing how everything comes together, again, without too many spoilers, although if you're this far in, and probably you don't really mind about spoilers, keep going because there are cards that kind of make the cards click together quite well. So, and I'm looking forward to see next level. Do I get another cool like kind of utility puzzle piece, or do I just get like a really big like hit? Right? Like a really big card that just kind of replaces one of my current ones and says, yeah, you know what? Here's how you do heaps of damage.
Yeah. No, I'm completely in agreement with you. I was just thinking about, number one, a couple of the points that you made. And one of them was, you can kind of control the retirement thing. One of us can't. And that's me.
One of us is on a knife's edge.
So the Drifter at the moment is kind of very, very close. And it's not in my control. So yeah, it's just something that might happen next playthrough, and it might not. I might be around for another week. It's kind of weird like that.
I guess we can probably say this without it being too spoilerish, and we're being very careful about because some people won't encounter certain things. But it's basically any time we go back to Frosthaven, there's a chance that Daddy will now retire.
It'll trigger.
It'll trigger his retirement. So it's yeah.
And we haven't had a retirement yet. So this is interesting. It's new ground for us. We're not too sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what the steps are going to be. We'll find out when that happens. But I thought I was going to be the furthest off a while back. It turns out Phil is probably going to be the furthest
Phil is
off.
never going to retire. Like Phil, he's told us what his is, and he's just never like he's going to be playing that Deathwalker forever.
It's one of the goals where you can go progress towards it and then regress away from it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and also, even if you're progressing towards it, it can progress further away from you. That's the way it works. So, yeah, look, he's either going to play that through the duration of the 150 scenarios that make up Frosthaven, or get to level 9 and go, you know what, I'm just going to pick a different character because that's also an option. So
that's true.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, Phil, next time we see you, let us know what you're going to decide.
Yeah, look forward to that. Yes, if it wasn't obvious, we finished that one and we won. So we won that particular scenario. We got given, I think we got given an XP reward.
We did get a fat XP reward.
Super delicious. Yeah. And that's what ticked me over to leveling up as well.
That's right.
So I leveled up again, which is nice. I'm now level 6. I think I was the only one.
Yeah, Phil's a little bit behind. And
you have caught up.
I have caught up. Yeah, the last 2 scenarios, being able to pump out a bit more XP has definitely made a difference. And if I can lean into this fire creation business, we should be seeing the XP charts like going up for the Geminate.
Yeah. Battle goals. So our battle goals this week, I had specialists, and specialists is, and don't forget for those who may be joining us now and haven't listened to it in the past, we're playing a slight variant that we discussed in our variant episode ages ago, where if we complete a battle goal successfully, it goes into a separate pile that we don't touch. And if we don't complete it, it goes back into the generic pile, which we shuffle and deal out as per normal. So this is just to stop us from seeing the same battle goals over, well, completing the same battle goals over and over again. We may still see them over and over again, but this just gives us a bit more variety of every battle goal until we can no longer deal enough for everyone. We'll see some variety in play.
Yeah, and we really have. Like, just to comment on that quickly, even in the first like 5 scenarios, because it was probably around about then that we decided to start doing it, we had already seen the same, a few of the same ones completed.
Yeah.
Like, because there are some go-to ones that I won't say easy, but they definitely fit in without altering your playstyle too much. Or, you know, so it's been pretty cool to know that the ones you're pulling up either haven't been seen or haven't been completed, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm seeing some of these, you know, can we get them? Because like that, mine, you know, to segue into mine's was, oh, you didn't even tell us yours, did you?
No. I haven't yet. So I had Specialist, and Specialist is that I can never perform a basic action on any of my cards, which was a 2-ticker.
You've had this one before as well, I reckon.
Have I?
You haven't completed it.
I haven't completed it. No.
So I remember. I'm pretty sure we got somewhere and you had
to do it.
It was actually. It was in the bombing one because you jumped over in there and you had nothing else to do, but you had to hit
attack.
You had to hit the pillar.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
Yeah,
you're right. So this time I actually pretty much stacked my deck with attack cards and movement cards to make sure that I never had to default to the basic movement or the basic attack. And again, due to maybe how smooth the run started to become, I was never in a position where I was like, I have to break this to make sure that we get across this line. So yeah, I just never had to worry about that, and I completed that particular battle goal. Phil was nice and simple. He could never short rest, and unfortunately, he short rested.
He actually did at one stage. He's like, no, I'm going to long rest. And then it was like, oh, because there was a fair bit going on. This was probably the last tense moment that we had, right? Because there was a few bits and pieces going on, a couple of the bigger monsters that we needed to kill, and we weren't 100% sure that it was in the bag yet. And yeah, he wanted to long rest. And then he was kind of like, I don't know if he felt like we guilted him into it. It was like, why are you long resting? That's so weird. And he's like, oh, fine, I'll short rest. And then it was... Again, he did that really coy, I don't really want to short rest. And we're like, okay. And then we were like, that's fine. You can totally long rest. He's like, no, I'll do it for the team. And did it. And then we heard all about it. So bad luck, Phil.
No.
It's all right. He's got like 1 million ticks. Like I'm pretty sure he's almost full on ticks anyway. So you can
his
let us catch up.
modified deck is well and truly better than everyone else's.
It's like all crits.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's just purple cards and green cards. Like, it's be so good to be able to know that when you attack, that you know that whatever your attack value says on your card, the number you actually do is going to be higher than that, right?
Yes.
It's, you know, and I feel like if he pulls his miss, it's almost like it's a bug in the game. Like, I feel like if he attacks something and doesn't do heaps of damage to it, it's like, oh, that seems like a weird feature of this class. That doesn't usually happen.
No.
So yeah, it definitely is interesting. So mine, I think I mentioned it earlier, mine was to kill 5 enemies, which I've actually also had before. I can't remember when I had it. I believe it was in the last couple of weeks, and I remember not choosing it and then realizing that I actually killed 5 enemies within the first room. So I was like, oh, okay, I probably should have chosen it. So this time I looked and went, yep, let's take it, and then saw how big some of the mobs were, right? Like we had the snow speakers and the guards who were all very, very tanky. So I think I just missed killing one of them on turn 1, which was really annoying, or turn 2, which was really annoying because I thought that was going to be my first one. But I did manage to get there with a couple of the snow imps. I think there's snow imps that start on there, and I killed one of them and then a couple of the others that spawned. So yeah, I was able to get that, which was good.
Yeah, more ticks for you. We're catching up to Phil. It's funny that Phil's actually failed quite a few of the most recent ones, actually.
Yeah, I think we maybe need to sabotage him a little bit more.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. So if we have a quick look at our DPS meters, I won't dwell on this for too long. Deathwalker, so Phil finished on 57.
Oh, that's good.
You finished on 41, and I finished on 49. So yeah, all in the same ballpark, doing what we normally do. It's fairly consistent with you and I flipping around every now and then, depending on if I miss or not, which I haven't done lately. So I've actually, I will learn how to shuffle my modified deck without cheating. I don't know how.
Yeah, a little bit of Phil magic.
Phil taught me. Damage taken was 10 by Deathwalker. So yeah, he is not doing as much damage taking as he was in the past, because there was a period of time where he was just taking it all and running around on 1 health.
Yeah.
And then lately, he's been staying out of the fray, and he healed for 5, a 2 and a 3. He did not use his special.
Oh,
thing
he didn't
this
use
time.
his. Yeah.
Either that or he's not writing it down.
Yeah,
but
he's notoriously bad at writing his own healing.
His own healing, considering
Yeah.
we've spent half this podcast giving him grief about it. Damage taken with the Geminate, you took 21 and you mitigated 11.
Mm-hmm.
The 10 of the 11 you mitigated was from a card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you got
Must
rid of
have
2
got hit
cards
real
for that.
hard.
One of them you got hit for. Well, it says 2 minus 5, so I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, who knows? I healed for 3 damage and then I discarded a card to not heal.
Did you lose a card for making fire?
Oh, I might have at one. Yeah, I did at the end. Yeah, because I was like, I don't make fire.
Yeah.
And then I looked at my life and went like, oh, it's really low. I think I'm on 2. That would kill me. It's totally worth burning a card for this.
Yeah,
So
you did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also gave myself regenerate, and then the next turn I was like, where'd my regenerate go? And you're like, you dealt 2 damage to yourself. I'm like, damn it. So yeah, I need to be more aware of that,
You're
because
just too fire hungry.
yeah. Well, I mean, hey, imagine this is how it was when the peoples first discovered fire. They were like, let's just do it all the time, right? Like,
Burn themselves.
yeah.
So I had taken on Drifter 31 damage. I mitigated 8 of it. One of those was a discard, and I healed 20. So it turns out continuous health and crushing weight, the go-to.
Yeah. No, that healing that you've been doing lately has been really good, I think, in comparison to the tanking. Because, having a bonus on your heal, and you've got a couple of good heal cards, you've got the ability to throw it on yourself. You've got a couple of, you've got your amulet, which does it. So there's ways you can really pump heals on yourself really quickly. But you've also have the chance to throw them out on other people, which happened, not this scenario much, but last scenario. So it's almost like having your continuous health is more flexible than having the shield 2. I think the shield 2 is amazing, and if you have your ability to kind of keep negating it, but in that instance, you have to force everyone onto you, right? And sometimes that's just not doable,
No.
right? There are times where you don't want to get hit, or other people are going to get hit, and you go, well, I can't throw my shield onto you, right? So yeah, I think you're right. The health is actually been working out quite well for us recently.
It goes well with the movement as well, the movement heal and the necklace, our anti-brittle poison wound necklace.
Yeah. Well, you've had turns where without really doing anything, you've pumped yourself back up heaps, and it's been like, oh, okay, that didn't take I heal 10, and you're like, wow, okay, that's massive, and that was just a card.
Just a casual card.
Yeah, just a casual card. So, although in saying that, one thing I do remember from this scenario, you drew your 0 mover token back cards.
Oh yeah.
Consistently. Forever. They would just.
It was the first 3 cards I drew were the 0 mover token back card. So my tokens were at the start for the good first 5 or 6 rounds, just consistently pushing them back through other cards that push them back, but also the zeros that were coming up that were pushing them back. I couldn't get them off the start.
Yeah, we're on turn 5, and your continuous health and crushing weight was still on max.
Yeah.
You had to actually one turn manipulate it in a way that it dropped down so you could push it back up.
Well, that's the thing about drifters, and other drifters out there will know this, is that if you get into a good routine of pushing it forward and backwards over an XP, it's amazing. But if you accidentally move it into the next threshold, it moves back and forth between 2 XPs. 2 XP symbols, and you're not getting the XP anymore. And you got to work out, well, do I keep pushing it forward over the next threshold, or do I work it back over the previous one? It can really throw you out.
Yeah, it sounds really
It's
bad.
super annoying.
So annoying.
My drifter DJs out there. So went back, did an outpost event. I actually can't remember the thing.
The event.
Oh, well, yeah. So we went back and we had
We
our
had heaps
sections.
of things.
We had our sections.
Yeah, because this is a pretty big event. This is a pretty big outpost event.
Yeah.
Because we had this is our last day of summer.
Yes.
Last day of summer.
Yes.
So we read a bunch of events.
Yeah. The first one was the our merchant mate.
Yeah, old mate comes into town.
Yeah. And I actually bought a dagger from him, the poison dagger. I hope it's good. I don't have enough hands because I didn't pick the perk yet, so we'll get there.
Yeah, I think I got some armor as well. Oh no, I didn't. I crafted the armor. So yeah, I can't remember what the other thing that we read
you
out.
did.
What?
I'm hoping you would remember.
Oh, what the outpost event was?
Yeah, the second section. What was the second section? The one we read.
I don't know. It was probably something to do with some things happening.
Oh, I think we got. It was like you. It was So the next one was a lot of people would have already have done it. Is the one was based around our settling into Frosthaven, and this is going to be our home kind of thing. With,
That's right.
It was more narration.
Yeah,
than
gates
anything.
are closed. You're in for the long haul now.
And here's
yeah.
some prosperity or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it was kind of it's basically it's the end of summer.
Yep.
It's like kind of read this and it tell you that it's the end of summer.
I kind of wish it prepped us a little bit more for winter.
Oh,
Like
look, we still have we're terrified of winter, and
Yeah.
we may not need to be, but we are, and we will continue to be until I don't know we've lived through a winter.
I just don't know what, like, I know it's going to be a tutorial from us to work out exactly how we deal with an attack of any kind because we have not been attacked or
Yeah,
anything like
that's
that.
it.
We know it's part
Peaceful
of it.
summer.
We're sitting here with supplies for days. We're not sure what to do with them. They'll be great for repairing, repairing broken places.
Yeah,
We just haven't had anything break yet.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll be interesting when things come around, and I'm really looking forward to the next outpost. Other than the fact that Daddy may retire, which will be a shame, and I can't remember the outpost event that we had. I don't think it was very. Oh, it was a. Oh, yeah, no, I do remember it
It's
now.
at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, I do remember it now. Okay, so yeah, that was another interesting one. It was I don't want to say anything about what it was, but basically it was a kind of a push your luck type style one.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
Now
it
I
was push your
remember.
luck, and we decided not to opt into the pushing of luck because it was kind of like we were on the threshold of what a bad draw was gonna do.
It's all timing.
Yeah, it was weird. So
We have the unknown of winter coming up, so how much do we want to push?
Yeah.
Because it could make things bad for winter. If it was much earlier in our session, and it may have been something we would be like, hell yeah, let's try this out.
Yeah. We're playing very cautiously. So, and the rewards weren't that great anyway. In the end of it, so
Not for what we needed. We
Yeah.
weren't desperate for anything. But the good thing about this one is this is one that keeps coming back.
yeah, so we'll be able to decline it again in the future. So, yeah, so the outpost phase was actually quite eventful, and then we built the boat, we built the climbing gear, so we basically now have access to all of the scenarios we have because we're not held back by anything.
Well, the thing is, we weren't sure whether or not we were going to go do a lot of these scenarios. We then started to play around with some of these things that we hadn't built yet because we have all these extra materials. And it was kind of like, oh, read this section. Oh, this thing happened. Get a prosperity. And it's kind of like, oh,
yeah,
we should probably build more stuff.
yeah. So
And that's kind of what led to building the boat, building everything. Because we're like, oh, we need this prosperity to actually get the next threshold up so we can start upgrading some of these buildings.
yeah, and while we haven't seen how it works, the cool thing with the boat, and it made complete sense once we read the part out, was it's not just that, cool, you have a boat, like you have the sled and you have the climbing gear and that kind of stuff. It's that here's your boat, here's a boat envelope, here's a boat deck. You know, you're going to draw from this boat deck when you go
That was so
sailing.
cool.
And I'm like, well, of course, because you can't just draw the travel deck,
No.
right? Because it doesn't make any
You
sense.
come across a donkey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're on the seven seas and there's a donkey and he wants a carrot. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that seems really just bad flavor.
Yeah.
So it's, really cool that it's got its own deck. And I mean, it means there must be a fair few like kind of sea adventure ones, right? Like there's not going to be two and have a whole deck for that. And the other thing is that, again, they're probably all bad. Like, what else is going to happen on the sea other than pirates, icebergs, and probably snow imps?
Yeah. Snow imps, 100%.
Yeah, 100%,
Snow
yeah.
imp pirates.
Yeah. Oh, dear. All right. So you mentioned that you had...
Yeah, so I was browsing Reddit just before, and I saw a thread that was from about a week ago, and it was actually some people that were discussing their enjoyment of Frosthaven in comparison to Gloomhaven, and was saying that Frosthaven, their feeling is coming across a little bit too almost smarty pants, in that the scenarios are so varied that it's taking away the fun factor, in that they're trying to get so complex. Now we're a good 10, 12 scenarios in now. And we've seen a bit of a range of different types of scenarios. They were upset because, or just saying it wasn't as much enjoyment because they can't play the game. And we've had this chat. They can't play the scenarios and the way their characters play because of the rules, and there's a lot of people on both sides that are just like, well, if you want to play a little bit more freely, maybe drop the difficulty, or maybe just, they were like, oh, but the fun is hitting stuff. The fun is doing damage and hitting stuff. That's all we want to do. And other people are like, in my argument, it's the same thing. You're going to get bored of just doing the same old.
Yeah, but we did it in 100 scenarios of Gloomhaven, so...
Didn't we?
No, I didn't get bored. I loved every second of it.
It was so long ago for me.
Yeah. Oh, look, that isn't my throwing my weight into the side of like I disagree or agree. Like that's just... And I'm actually just getting towards the end of the run through Gloomhaven in the digital side. So that's the second time I've gone through. And that's been playing mostly weekly. And I mean, it is getting a bit samey, I guess, but it's still definitely fun. But yeah, it's a really interesting conversation.
Because we've talked about no prep. We've had 2 rounds of no prep, which was interesting, and I like it. But also we needed that palate cleanser, which gave us the round of prep to play the way we wanted to play, and that the rules are getting in the way. Well, the special rules and the scenario goals are getting in the way of us having fun. We just want, and it sounds a little bit like, give us a little bit more variety of monster types and their positioning, so that we can Euro our way into our card play and getting into really good positions to, feel clever and all that kind of stuff, which I do get. Like I'm a bit of a fence sitter on this, right? I'm not really picking one side or the other, but I, as you know, have full faith in when I'm playing a game, the designer of the game knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that it's really tricky because Gloomhaven and people who play Gloomhaven, and then Frosthaven is like Gloomhaven again, right? Now I'm loving it so far, and I definitely think that it needed to exist, right? Like you can have does this sequel need to exist, whether it be a movie, or a game or whatever? And sometimes the answer is, you know what? No, they didn't need to make that. They just did. This is great. I mean, really, really enjoying it. I think the changes have made a big difference, and the fact that we haven't even seen any of the new characters, like we've only seen 4 classes.
True.
Like of the variety in the Gloomhaven classes just makes me so excited to see that. So let's get that out. That so far it's been amazing. In saying that, I think because people are going to carry their expectations from Gloomhaven into Frosthaven, that the way that it's designed, and it may be with more the scenarios are more complex. Like already we're not even 10% of the way through, right?
Yeah.
And all of the scenarios have pretty much been more complex than most of the scenarios in Gloomhaven, other than the normal kind of move through and attack ones. And I can definitely see that it does limit your ability to almost solve not just the puzzle that is your character, and all the characters have their own different little puzzles to solve, but you can get real cool feeling out of like getting that synergy, going like, oh, you know what? I chose these cards in this, or the monster deck came up with these cards, and I figured out how to combat it, right? And I think we'll use the extreme example being the bombing run one, the blow up the pillars.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad example to use as the norm, because I think it's too far down that scale. But that mission basically became use the bombs and then just smash away to the end.
Yeah.
Like I don't think character classes are made almost no difference in that, because it was literally just, can you jump and smash? And that type of scenario I don't think is good for the game in that. Now, we've only had one like that. And again, I'll say that's right down the end. So that's an outlier.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen another one like that. And I hope that
out of all of them, that's been the one that stood out as, oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Now, if that's the only one, or if they're very few and far between, then that's fine, I think, to have them, because again, it does keep things interesting.
Agreed. It's
going to be whether we have enough palette cleansers. And I think this is one of the problems by giving people choice on their scenario. And we've said this, we're hopping around like crazy, right? Like we really need to be picking a storyline and going with it, because I feel like that will be how they'll be built in.
Yeah.
Right? Like they'll have that in mind when they've designed, going, you know what, these are 3 or 4 scenarios that all go in a row. We're going to make sure that you have this roller coaster ride of different experiences, but we're literally going like, all right, we'll have one of those, and we'll have one of those though, and we'll have one of these at a completely different place.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that the designers can accommodate that.
No.
So I don't know if other people are having that same experience.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to kind of comment on, but yeah.
Well, testament to the design is that, like exactly like you said, we have kind of gone all over the place with our choices of where we're going to go, and yet we're still incredibly engaged and enjoying, where we're going with it, instead of, no, you should have played it in this particular order to get the real feel, the real story of it. You're doing it wrong, in other words, but that's not kind of how it felt.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I remember from Gloomhaven, which, I mean, this has it in spades because all the scenarios are different, but I remember we were halfway through and I had a hiatus in that, and so I came back after a while, and the scenarios were still throwing inventive things at us. Like even just little wins, like, you go into this place and then you get pushed around, or you go into these things and things are asleep, or whatever it was, right? There was just these little slight differences. I think that Frosthaven has dialed that up a bit.
Yeah.
So it's not little differences. It's like, oh, all of these tiles deal 1 damage if you're next to them, right? It's now a whole completely different set of kind of complexity from the objectives, but also how you interact. And I would say we're probably at the threshold. Like, I wouldn't want things to get too much more complex, because then I think, not that it won't understand it, but it will start becoming very much, well, it doesn't really matter.
I can hear them all out there going, oh, you just wait right
Yeah,
now.
well, that's it. Maybe it is. Maybe we are going to get to that stage, but I think that, you do need to make sure that the characters shine. And that's the only other thing I would say on that, is that it doesn't matter what the game is, right? And we can talk specifically about Frosthaven because that's what we're talking about. But anything is that you need to make sure that the people playing it are able to do the things that are fun, or that it's fun. It's why the skip a turn mechanic in any game ever is the worst thing you can do, because it literally says you don't get to play the game.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. You never want that. That's you need to mitigate. That's why a -2 is really impactful. Whereas the miss, and I can see why people don't play with the miss, because the miss basically says you don't get to have your turn. Right. So once you start taking away from people's ability to actually go, oh, I'm a character, I get to make decisions, and suddenly go, no, this scenario says what you need to do and when you need to do it. When you get to that point, then I can see people's arguments. So I hope that it doesn't get to that stage. But we're definitely not there yet.
No.
So I would say that at the moment I'm all right with it.
I think we're doing exceptionally well in that. Yes, you're right. There are so many characters. We only know the 4 characters we've played with. We know next to nothing about anything else that's in there, other than there's a trap symbol and a snowflake symbol. And look, if I looked in the box, I could probably tell you the rest. I just haven't really done that. But none of us are, we're this far in, and there's still none of this kind of sitting on our hands like, oh my God, I'm desperate to go in there and just see everything else that's hidden. We're kind of all enjoying the ride and not feeling that kind of tension of, no, I need to go in there and see everything now and see everything. Oh, cool, I've seen everything, now I'm bored, or anything like that. Taking it in its stride.
Yeah, and I think like when we talked about this in the last scenario where we opened up the room into the second room in the boss ice castle thingy that we went through, and then we got sucked into this orb room with these. Again, people may have skipped it, so I won't talk too much about it in case of spoilers, but it was very different. And so it is kind of cool knowing that every room we open, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, is it going to be a normal corridor? Probably not. But there might be. And I actually think that's really good, because you can't just completely plan around everything.
Oh, I'm starting to feel we can, because there's a 90% chance that when you open the door, there's snow imps in there.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's it. 100% chance of snow imps. Yeah.
Because I'm at the stage right now where if I had to do a full review of the game, it'd be like really, really, really high, and the negatives, it'll have snow imps.
Yeah.
And it'll be like just too many snow imps. I don't know who was coming up with all of these scenarios, and whether or not there's a ratio or boxes of, is everyone getting equal representation amongst all the things? No, the snow imps are currently in, I would say, 50% of the scenarios in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when Isaac had the little matrix that I assume he designed scenarios around to make sure that it has like the right elements and monsters and stuff like that, there was a box that just said snow imps and it had to be ticked. Like, that's it. So, yeah, it's definitely. And look, again, throw it out there to the listener that told us that we were playing snow imps wrong in that first episode.
Oh my God.
If we had not gotten that feedback, we may have stumbled across it by accident, but
probably.
playing them as always being brittle compared to always giving us brittle, we would have been this many episodes later, it's episode 14, going like, how good are snow imps? They're so easy because they die so quickly.
Yeah.
So yes, again, thank you. I think we've thanked you before, but thanks again for not making our entire run of Frosthaven basically irrelevant.
Yeah, you've changed the direction of the podcast.
Yeah, for the better. It would have been a nightmare. We would have just quit if we'd found that out after like 20 episodes. Like, oh, guys, you've been cheating for 20 episodes. Like, we're not really a podcast anymore. Thanks a lot.
No, and then 2 weeks later, they'll be welcome to amDirt.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, with fake mustaches.
Well, that's about all we have time for this week. Feel free to get in contact with us for some boat names. Remember, Boaty McBoatface is not, that's the one, right?
Yeah.
It's not available.
I mean, suggested if you'd like to, but we're probably not going to go with that just because it has been suggested by everyone at the table already.
The first email's coming through right now. It's the Snow Imp.
Oh, yeah. Don't steal the good ones. No. But
But
that's up for grabs if you really want to troll us.
I can't, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, get in contact with us. Email is contact@rollingterribly.com. We're found on Instagram at am_dirt. And our Twitter is U, as in the letter U, amDirt. So yeah, until next time, we will keep smashing some Frosthaven. And I've been Deddy. I've been joined by Gaz in person.
In person, that's it. And remember, when it comes to stopping angry Elgox from destroying your invasive colonization pillars, it's all in the wrist. I'm browsing through. It's got all the categories, right? I'm just doing browse, and it's like barbecue, halal, gluten-free, Malaysian, Middle Eastern, everyday essentials, hot dog.
Just hot dog.
Like that's hey, what kind of cuisine are you feeling? Hot dog?
Hot dog.
Hot dog?
Hot dog.
And this guy's gonna walk up a whale on that and kill it, but he'll take a bunch of damage, so it's okay.
Oh, he might miss.
Yeah, he could miss. He's got. I mean, it's not filled, so he won't work.
But, sorry, I couldn't feed off to them.
That's fine.
No, I mean that pallet pill was
Alright.
online. That was kind of the objective anyway.
Throw him on there.
Yeah. And hit it for 5.
Oh, shit.
Wow. Okay, sure.
I had a feeling, but I was like, I bet you it's going to miss. And then I missed out on that, and then I copped the crit.
Yeah.
I just had a feeling.
They're all. Yeah, this guy moves and hits me. Oh.
No, I'm going to hit first.
Oh, you get hit first.
Yeah, I want the next card.
Oh!
There it is. Are you actually serious? I just got a card from that.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
that was the only situation where that would happen.
Oh my lord.
That's...
How much is that?
Doesn't matter.
8. It's 8.
Like... Really?